Hello everyone, and welcome to my guide to the Cavalry Class in Battlefield 1. I have scoured YouTube far and wide trying to find a good and updated guide to the Cavalry, and have come up mostly short. Many of the major YouTubers don't do this class justice, and have neglected to put out an updated guide to this class. And not only that, I see many players on the battlefield not using it to its fullest potential. So, since I recently reached 1,000 kills with the class, I thought I might share some of my skills, strategies, tips, and expertise to help you improve your cavalry meta. And without further ado, let us begin. So before we go over any tactics or strategies, let's go over the cavalry class himself. He is equipped with a Russian 1895 cavalry variant, which in all aspects is pretty much exactly the same as the Russian 1895 trench variant for the scout. The only thing that is different is that the Cavalry Class variant has a slightly faster bullet velocity on it. He also has a sword, a small ammo pack, a small health pack, which is very important, and 2 light anti-tank grenades, which might be even more important. Note, however, that this is only for when you're on horseback, as your kit will change when you are off the horse. Your sword is moved to your melee slot, and you receive a pistol, an M1911 for the British Americans and Italians, and a P08 Luger for the Ottomans and the Germans. You also have a ridiculous amount of health. You can pretty much eat bullets for breakfast and still come back for more. You're like the heavy from TF2. You can throw anything you want at this guy and he will not die. So as with any class in Battlefield, the cavalry has some strengths and some crushing weaknesses. But first, the good things. Your horse is one of the fastest things in the game, allowing you to traverse open terrain with ease. It is also incredibly agile, and you can jump over pretty much anything in the game aside from, like buildings and tanks. No, you know what? Not even tanks. I've jumped over tanks. Because of your horse's speed, you are able to employ hit and run tactics, where you can run in, kill some enemies, and then quickly run off before they can react to you. And despite what you may think, the cavalry class is actually surprisingly effective against tanks when the pieces are set right. You're able to destroy up to 1/3 of the tank's health if both of your grenades hit, although this depends on which kind of tank you're facing. As with any class, the cavalry also has some weaknesses, and strap in, cause there's a lot of them. Even though you are good against infantry and you have ridiculous amounts of health, as previously stated, this does not make you invincible. If your opponents are aware of you, they will be able to hear you coming, as the horse and even the rider make a good amount of noise. Conventional weapons are also still effective against you, as with enough shots to either you or your horse, you will be killed. Sometimes all it takes is one guy with an automatico and good aim to take you out. It's happened to me. Also, as previously stated, you are effective against tanks, but tanks are as equally effective in taking you out. That might be a no-brainer, like, duh, Explosive Shell versus Fleshy Man and Horse. I think Explosive Shell would win. Probably the biggest weakness of the horse is the lack of anti-air abilities. Planes will be able to easily counter you, as they can come at you from angles you cannot reach, and you are unable to do anything about it, aside from hoping you can find a flak cannon somewhere. Think of the cavalry class as pretty much everything's counter, but you are also countered by everything. Last, the horse itself is really glitchy. It gets stuck on many things which can either slow it or stop it completely, which makes you an easy target for snipers or really pretty much anything on the battlefield. This also makes fighting in more urban areas difficult on the horse and the class, due to the glitchy nature of the horse and the constricted passages and lanes of the urban areas. Some examples can be the C flags on Ballroom Blitz in Sinai Desert, the E and F flags on Foul Fortress, and the D and E flags on St. Quentin's Scar. I would generally avoid areas like these, at least if you're on the horse. If you need to attack these kinds of areas, I would suggest either going in quick and throwing grenades and leaving, or just dismounting from the horse entirely and fighting it out on foot. I would also generally avoid these areas because they tend to be hotspot areas for infantry and vehicles alike. And you may think like, oh wait, that's where all the fighting is, I want to be there. Like, trust me, Just watch. In this next clip here, you can see me coming in on the C flag on Ballroom Blitz. And I'm trying to like just throw some grenades real quick and get out. I'm deploying that tactic that I mentioned earlier, but a group of infantry come upon me. They're entering, and I am just completely torn apart. So that is my main reason right there, because infantry are always going to be there, and your health is pretty much negated by their combined arms fire. I promise you, just avoid these areas, if you can help it. Without further ado, let us address how you can excel in horse versus man. The number one tactic I can give you is learn to spot and do it always. The tactics that I will mention in this video become near useless if you do not know where your enemy is and where he is going to be. Think of it like spotting on steroids. Everyone says spot, 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 but Cavalry, you really got to be spot, 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 spot. That's how much you got to do it. Spot everything you see, because you will not be able to play to the full effectiveness of the cavalry if you do not spot. So there are two different approaches you can use when you're fighting infantry, and this is entirely dependent on whether your enemy is aware that you are there. If your enemy is unaware of you, first, as I said, spot him, and then take him out, whether it is with the sword, the rifle, or the grenades. You just need to be ready in case he escapes, or maybe you miss the shot and he decides to give chase. You also need to be ready if the enemy turns and has enough time to react to you. As soon as your enemy becomes aware of you, you need to act real fast. If he is farther away from you and is firing at you, especially if he's support or a sniper, take out your gun and use your grenades. I see so often that these noobs, or heck even experienced players, will go for the sword and you're just perfectly lining yourself up for the enemy. So don't use that. Don't use the sword all the time. You do have other weapons. You got rifle and you got a grenade. Use them. Now let's talk about the four classes in depth and some of the common tactics that I see them use against the cavalry. Believe me, they are all pretty predictable, and once you notice the patterns, you'll find taking them down much easier. So first, let's talk about the assault. An experienced assault player will know to immediately take out his AT gun, since it kills the rider instantly if it hits. And if it doesn't hit you directly, it does massive amounts of splash damage to both you and your horse, to the point where a slight sniffle in your general direction will end your life. There are a few things you can do to keep yourself from becoming a pile of goop on the ground. First of all, the assault will normally be prone, which makes him an easy target for your rifle and for your grenades. Shooting him and throwing grenades is the best way to take him out if he is shooting at you. Second of all, the AT gun's projectile is fairly slow, which makes it easy to dodge farther out. My suggested tactic would be to get him at range around 75 to 110 meters out, and then kill him from there with your rifle or your grenades. Do not go for the sword, because if you're coming straight at him, it lines him up perfectly and makes you super easy. Trust me, I've been there before, and it's not fun to be killed. Medic is probably the easiest of the four classes to counter and kill. There aren't many outlandish tactics that I see medics deploy. They don't have access to large amounts of explosives like the assault and support, and there isn't any easy way that the medic can kill you aside from shooting you in the dome piece. Medic has semi-automatic rifles, which makes him a formidable foe in ranged situations. If he is shooting you, I would suggest zigzagging if you're running away. Since he only has a certain rate of fire, zigzagging makes it much more difficult for him to hit you. Also, he might try to revive enemies that you previously killed, so make sure to kill him and the assault player first if they are in a group together. Supports can be difficult to kill, as he can paint your bodies with bullet holes faster than Lindsay Lohan can clear out a drug dealer's cocaine. His machine gun can easily tear you to shreds when he is aware of you and can end your life incredibly fast. I would suggest getting farther away from him like you should for the assault. As you get farther away from him, damage drop-off starts to kick in, and he may become a tad bit more inaccurate as well. At this point, you can either wait for him to stop paying attention to you and leave, or you can whip out your gun and grenades and try to kill him that way. This works especially well as supports like to prone a lot, which makes their heads much easier targets for your rifle. However, if he is too much to handle at the moment, run away while zigzagging to make it harder for you to be hit and finish him off another time. Scout is a bit of a gamble when you fight him. He can get a lucky headshot and end you with one pull of the trigger, or he can miss everything and be your easiest foe to kill. They can be very annoying since most of them love to hump a corner or rooftop somewhere, which makes them both difficult to kill and they put you at a disadvantage. There are a couple tactics you can use against him though. Try to close distance between him and you. His effectiveness against you weakens when you are closer to him. When approaching, I would zigzag, making it harder for him to hit you with his sniper rifle. You should be trying to coax him to take out his pistol, which does significantly less damage to you, thus making it easier for you to kill him. At that point, it is up to you how you kill him. However, if he is farther away off in the distance somewhere, in some dark corner of the map, or somewhere on that mountain in Sinai Desert, zigzagging, again, makes it very difficult for him to hit you. Do this until you are out of his sight, or you can continue on your merry way murdering his teammates. So how do you counter enemy cavalrymen? Countering enemy cavalrymen can be difficult if you don't know what you're doing. The rifle does as little as 7 damage to the rider, and it can take multiple shots from it to take down either the horse or the rider. The sword, however, instantly kills him. And you would think, oh, I should just use that, right, Taco? Wrong. Yes, it's an instant kill. Yes, you look cool if you pull it off, but the risks heavily outweigh the rewards. First, if you are close enough to be in melee range of him, chances are he's probably swinging away at you too, which makes it both difficult to avoid his attacks and land a swing on him. The sword also has a very glitchy hitbox on the rider, which makes it very unreliable to use against other cavalrymen. So in light of this, I would entirely avoid the sword unless he doesn't know that you're there or is preoccupied with something else. So what should you do if you meet each other in battle? Use the grenades and rifle. Often at times I see enemy cavalrymen get tunnel vision with me and try to chase me down with the sword, and you can take advantage of this. Once he's on your tail, run in a straight line and throw grenades ahead of you. Normally he will end up running into the grenades and die. Also, have the rifle ready in case he doesn't die and you need to finish him off. However, sometimes other cavalrymen actually have brains in their skulls and will try to instead shoot you. In this case, use the rifle and throw grenades like the last time. Try to keep yourself moving and bobbing and weaving to make yourself harder to hit. However, if he is too much, try to get him to chase you and run towards your friendlies. One of my favorite tactics to use against enemy cavalrymen that I cannot handle is run straight in front of a friendly tank. You can probably guess what happens after that. One last thing. If you manage to kill the rider and not the horse, be sure to take the enemy's horse and kill yours. Not only does this rob the enemy of one of their horses, it means more people can now spawn as cavalrymen on your team and make winning the match just a tad bit easier. So with that last comment, this is the end of part 1. In part 2, we will discuss in detail how to effectively fight against each type of tank, what they can do to you, their common tactics, and what you can do to counter them. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you have any tactics of your own, feel free to put them in the comments. Subscribe and like if you feel like it. And with that, see you all later.